very Bond-esque.
It was very Bond-esque. Good evening. So, episode 6 of The Space Pirates is by far and away the best episode of The Space Pirates. And the reason for that is it had tension, it had some drama, and it was weirdly reminiscent, in a very strange way, of Whoathon, which obviously we haven't seen yet, but it's also by Robert Holmes. And kind of does the same thing that The Space Pirates does, but a billion times better, as in the Doctor is almost incidental to the events that are happening. And it works with Whoathon, so why doesn't it work with The Space Pirates? Well, there's two reasons. The first reason is the setting is, for the most part, so staid and boring and badly done. Right? Isigri and the space dudes and all that, it's just so sterile. With the exception of Cavan, who's actually a pretty good baddie, and his sadism is refreshing and joyous. The other reason it doesn't work is because in the midst of that can work for Doctor Who, when the Doctor comes in and messes everything up. And I'm not just talking in terms of plot, but just as a tonal thing. So you drop the Doctor, who's the constant throughout the programme, in these different situations. This is all Philip Sandifer's ideas, not mine. You drop the Doctor in the middle of this, and it all gets messed up, and that's the tension of the show, and that's what makes it brilliant and fantastic. But you don't need that in this one, because what you've got in this one is Milo Clancy. And what are you doing, Elizabeth? Very distracting. Thank you. Milo Clancy is in himself the sand in the Vaseline of this story, because he's just so out of sync with everybody else, and also just not that good. I mean, I don't like Clancy. I know other people do. I just think it doesn't work. His accent veers wildly, which normally I can forgive. I mean, it didn't bother me in The Gunfighters, but in this, it just drives me up the wall. And I think there's one other problem with this story. So anyway, the Space Pirate doesn't work. However, it's worth saying this. We've just watched the last reconstruction that we're going to watch. And the Space Pirates is a terrible story to have reconstructed, because the Doctor is, by default, both in terms of plotting and circumstance, in the background. And Troughton's Doctor is a background Doctor. The only other Doctor like it is McCoy. And what McCoy has is this weight of what the Doctor is like, this hindsight. And therefore the Doctor has a resonant power at that point. At this point, yes, there, but not to that extent. And this is just a terrible story for reconstructions. A really bad story. So I'm glad we've got them. But I've got to say this. Whoever Loose Cannon are, whichever fans they are, thank you so much for reconstructing Doctor Who stories, because without your hard efforts, me and Libby would not have been able to appreciate Power of the Daleks and Evil of the Daleks and Marco Polo. And I mean, for God's sake, flipping the Mythmakers as well, which I loved. So even though the Space Pirates has been, in my eyes, terrible, that's not to discount the hard work that Loose Cannon did, and I really appreciate everything they did. I'm glad that I don't have to do the reconstruction, but I'm bloody glad the reconstructions were there for me. Onwards.